Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. Joined tonight by Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera from the Cash That Podcast, and Michael Fiddle at Fiddle's Picks on Twitter, where you can catch Fiddle's. What's the name of the show? You have it named. It used to be the Advantage Sports Betting Podcast, but now it's called
NBA Betting with Fiddle. Figured the other one was too confusing.
No, well, it's better for the SEO, right? It's better for the SEO. NBA Betting with Fiddle. You can catch every day on his YouTube channel. Make sure to check that, or his Twitter channel. Make sure to check that out. Today, we will give you best bets for Tuesday, December 30th in the association. Housekeeping, we will not have shows on New Year's Eve or the rest of the week. So we're done after tonight's show. We'll have one on Tuesday night for Wednesday night. There we go. But we won't have shows Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. We will be done for the week. Back at it next week for the holiday, giving our producers some well-earned time off. Everything we talk about today can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. Best place for you to track your picks. You get up-the-second information where the money's coming in. You can use Action Pro subscription to do all sorts of awesome stuff, including you can get, if you sign up for it, you're going to get Brandon Anderson's NFL plays, Sean Kerner's playoff props that evaporate in 35 seconds. So you're going to want to get on those very quickly. You can get the analytics crew stuff, their projections, all sorts of awesome stuff. You will find value in it. I promise. If you're listening to the show, you're going to like Action Pro. And you can use code POD20 to get $20 off right now at actionnetwork.com/pro. That's POD20 for $20 off a pro subscription. Just go over there and that'll be good. Okay. We'll do best tonight. It'll be a quick show. I do want to quickly touch on the Jokic injury. So in the Miami Heat versus Denver Nuggets game, Jokic is underneath the basket. Spencer Jones comes down on his foot while Joker is moving sideways. And Joker's basically, it's like Spencer's holding his leg down while Jokic is coming up. And ow. He did not return to the game. Team fell apart, got obliterated. That's what's going to happen when Jokic is out. They're going to be absolutely, it's going to be rough for a while. They'll probably have some games where they look okay, and then some games where they just get housed. I don't believe right now. I have not spoken to anybody in the Nuggets front office. I have not spoken with anybody in the Nuggets training staff because their training staff would never speak to any media person. And if they did speak to media people, they would definitely not speak to me, considering the things I've said about them. But I will tell you that my best guess is that this is going to be a bone bruise hyperextension, similar to Cam Johnson, and that this is going to be probably 3 to 4 weeks. Joker will probably return sooner because he's a tank. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was back in 2 weeks, but he's going to miss some time, and maybe a month. And if he's out a month, then that's going to change quite a bit, because what that's likely to mean is that Denver's going to slide into the 4-5 matchup. Like, they will probably lose enough ground where they can't catch back up with San Antonio and Houston, which locks San Antonio, Houston in the 2-3, which is actually bad for San Antonio. But I am not at this point like the Nuggets season is over, but there could be an MRI result tomorrow that just says, yeah, it's a torn ACL and he's done. Like, it's entirely possible. He has a very small group of people that represent him, and he is very particular about not sharing information. I would imagine Shams probably gets the MRI results sometime between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock Eastern time is when I would expect that. Fiddle, do you have any sort of immediate reaction to the Jokic injury and like what to do with it from a betting perspective?
No, that it's probably his value against the spread is number 1 in the league. I think it was like 5.6 points ATS. It's definitely increased with how good he's been this year and the cluster injuries of also losing Brown, Gordon, Cam Johnson. So him being able to hold the team afloat, I mean, even though 2 recent losses against the Florida teams and the Magic and the Miami Heat, he still sets such a high floor for this team that I would expect this to go heavily the other direction. And like, Valanciunas is a nice replacement player, but these lines are probably going to be 7.5 points different than what they normally would have been on just Jokic news because of the cluster injury impact of also missing Brown, Gordon, Cam Johnson as well.
I have him 7.5 points above replacement player on spread. So that's a lot. For example, without Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, and Nikola Jokic, I currently have the Nuggets rated as a 23-win team. That's my power rating on the Denver Nuggets going into their next game, Joe. So it's not great.
Yeah. It's gonna be tough for Denver because I mean, no matter what, he's gonna miss. Like, even if it's not serious, he's gonna probably miss like a week at least, right? And I guess like the more severe it is, like you said, it's probably a 3-4 week type of injury. So Denver's gonna be in for some tough sledding. Hopefully they get anybody back soon. But this is going to be a lot, I think, for Jamal Murray even to kind of have to shoulder for the next couple of weeks. Like, I don't know, like we'll see how good he can be, but that feels like a big ask for somebody who has historically not been like the healthiest person, or who's kind of struggled with seeing some of these like increased loads as well. So definitely some concern there from my perspective. The thing that I think is most interesting is if he does miss an extended period of time, like let's say he does come back, it's not a season-ending injury. It does change the MVP situation, I think, dramatically too, which we'll probably talk about on Sunday when we have maybe a better idea. But Shea like has already moved to a very clear minus number at this point. I think he's minus 250 or so in the market, and Jokic is all the way out to plus 450. Luka came down to plus 450. So I do think that it's made the MVP conversation at least a little bit more interesting. Not that Shea shouldn't just kind of run away with it like we had kind of been saying, but if there was anything that happened to Shea, then now you're getting into that realm of like, okay, this is like the next tier of MVP candidates. We weren't really doing that before because we said there's a clear top two, and then Luka's kind of the third guy. But Luka's dealt with some injuries as well, so definitely something where now there's a couple more players in play, a couple more conversations that I think can be had about where you kind of need to go with that type of betting.
Yeah, I don't. I cover the MVP as closely as I think anyone on the planet, and I have zero interest in it this year. Like, if it's going to be Shea or Jokic, depending on how the voters feel. If Jokic misses too much time, that's going to be Shea. If Shea misses too much time and Jokic passes, it'll be Jokic. If both of them miss, then it would become relatively interesting because it becomes wide open. But it's also just like, yeah, they won by default because these two other guys were out. I don't really know of a way to kind of approach it. I will just tell you, this number ballooning, don't overreact until like you can grab this now. And if Jokic is out for the season, then you can feel smart. But I will just tell you that man is a tank. Like, his endurance level is insane, and his desire. It's funny because it's like Jokic doesn't love basketball as much as some other people do, but he does love basketball. But the bigger thing is that as a Serbian value, he takes hard work very seriously. Like, this is a job, and you show up to your job and you do your job, which is why every time the training staff has been like, hey, you could take off tonight on this 3rd and 4 back-to-back and we'd probably be okay. And then he goes out there and he drops a 30-point triple-double because and in doing so, I actually think it's counterproductive because then the other guys are like, well, big fella's going to play. I can't sit. Like, Aaron Gordon has literally played games he shouldn't because he's been like, if Joker's playing, I'm playing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Fiddle. Like, am I overthinking this too much? Is it just like, yeah, the number's going to go down, grab SGA? I just don't think it's really worth it.
The only thing that I would throw in there that hasn't been said is like when Jokic, and when I watched that highlight of him getting injured in slow motion, like you see the fear like strike his face and his eyes, and it immediately grabs his knee. So like if it is something very serious, then yeah, this is Shea's in an absolute runaway spot, and especially including that Luka's missed time, Giannis's missed time, Wemby has missed time, Ant has missed time, like everyone else. Like, we're getting into, really bottom level MVP candidates otherwise. So if it's going to be a prolonged thing, Shea's an absolute runaway, and 245 is probably a great number, but No, I'm not a doctor. I'm not even an internet doctor. So I just saw the fear, and I'm like, oh crap! Like that scares me as an NBA person.
I think maybe the pivot instead of like MVP, honestly, is if Jokic is ineligible for some of these awards, the real pivot is that it opens up a spot in All NBA. Like if you can get action on that, now that becomes very interesting, I think, because
Are those
Jokic,
markets still up, Joe?
Well, right now usually there isn't anything because we've got like games playing and stuff, but those are markets that can be available. So it's something that, and a lot of times it pops up around like the All-Star break or things like that. So, just something to kind of keep an eye out for, or something that you might want to keep an idea or, be open to, because that's interesting then.
The other thing, you mentioned the fear, Fiddle. You do have to keep in mind that he's used to dealing with horses, and if they break their leg, you have to shoot them. So,
but just like when you see his face in slow motion, it's like you don't like. My first thought is like he might have felt something pop that's like not being reported, right? It's just like it's like you see like the it looks like he just saw a ghost. So
we'll see.
It's a scary thing. I hope he's okay.
We'll see. We're gonna do some best bets for the slate. We'll also give you King of the Court for Tuesday night in the association. Pretty tight slate, so maybe some opportunity to find some value there. We'll dig into it coming up on best bets. But first, the Buckets podcast is teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Stay on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BucketsNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. I don't know why my Southern came out on that one, but I said DraftKings Sportsbook. That's like that usually only happens when I'm really mad or when I'm drunk. As my Arkansas Southern comes out. Book comes out.
So it has to.
It's good now. Phil did ask a question in the private chat that we should hit on the Jokic thing before we do best bets. Fiddle, what's your thought there?
I said, is now actually just the value to grab Rockets to win the finals, 16-1, 15-1 out there. I already viewed them as the next best threat besides OKC. Like I'd still prefer Rockets to Denver. I'd prefer Rockets to San Antonio. And so I'm looking at the odds and like they're still fourth in the West. I feel like a lot can change in that movement in the next few days. So I was just like, is now the time to grab the Rockets as at least get the biggest punch at OKC and probably the most hedgeable ticket too from a value working off of it later. But yeah, I'm still long on the Rockets and thinking about grabbing them now.
Have you been texting Raheem? Because I had
not about this, but other things. Yes,
it's funny because you two are so aligned. I had this exact conversation with him today. The underlying metrics are deeply worrisome for Houston. The big picture stuff looks great, but there's like two ways to look at Houston. I think the best way to kind of describe Houston is that they're a sandwich, where the big narrative stuff is bad in terms of an unproven roster that hasn't really made a deep run, with an unconventional style, with Kevin Durant, who has not had any playoff success since 2018 was the last time he had a serious run. And then on the the other side, when we go past the narrative, I can point out like, hey, they are one of the best teams in the league at offensive rebounding, except their offensive rebounding per possession scoring numbers are garbage. They also allow a high number of second chance points by the opponent, so their biggest advantage gets evened out to a large degree. They're turnover prone in a league where if you're turnover prone and mistake prone in the playoffs, you get eviscerated. Their half court offense isn't very good, and they're extremely reliant on Reed Shepherd, who is going to get hunted into oblivion like he is a squirrel in a field of wolves. So, like, to me, like we talked about this a little bit last night on Buckets, like, I do think this is a choose your fighter moment. If the Nuggets are going to fall into the 4 and then it changes everything about the course of the season for them, the opportunity is like, choose your fighter. You can take Spurs or you can take Rockets. Whichever one of those teams you think is better is probably worth a bet on the NBA Finals right now. That'd be the way I would look at it. because like Houston's entire model screams, oh, they're not actually that good. They are just a team that beats up on a lot of teams when they're in an advantage. It's why they've had trouble in a lot of really key situations. Is the way I got read it, Fiddle.
Yeah, I see it. When I watch them, I'm like, this team could play playoff basketball. Like how physical it gets, the offensive rebounding stuff. I assume they have a better defensive rebounding effort in the playoffs. It is very true that the Steven Adams offensive rebound to point ratio compared to like Mitchell Robinson offensive rebound to creating Knicks points is like drastically different between those two. I would be interested in Joe's tiebreaker here and how he feels about my Rockets love.
I have a preseason like little sprinkle on like I think it was Amen 18 plus points per game and the Rockets to win the title just because I felt like they were kind of related, but I don't know. I think they match up okay with Oklahoma City, which I think makes it interesting because it's like if you get out of the West, then like sure you could win. And I think if they can lock themselves into the 2-3, then I think that you're absolutely in a better position to kind of continue to advance and maybe not have to either maybe not play OKC or not play maybe not play Denver, whatever the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of the key. So I do think that there's some value on the number, but do I think that they can win? It's a different question, I think.
I will say this. I do like Houston's matchup with San Antonio versus I talked about this last night that I like San Antonio's matchup with both OKC and Denver. Yeah. But I don't like Houston's matchup with Denver.
I love Houston against it. I just noticed market wise, Houston's taken action in all 3 games, right? They won the last one, so they're 1-2 against Denver. Yeah. There's been some crazy overtime stuff, crazy Jokic back-to-back threes in one of them. But even market ratings have Houston the second best team in the league. So like they would be
I know. I know. I mean, that backs up with a net rating. I get it. I'm just telling you, like those Denver games were entirely Reed Shepherd is adorable and does some cute little stuff that was not going to translate in the playoffs. He's going to get 100 off the
I think he's going to get destroyed.
He's going to get destroyed out of the building, down the street, and into like Ime Udoka will absolutely after game 1 be like, no, under no circumstances. And once that happens, their offense going to bottom. The other thing is that but here's a fun one. I shared these stats today with Raheem. Josh Okogie is shooting and like unreasonable percentage from 3, and he's like a big reason. If you do the matchup stuff, it's like, oh, if you take Okogie off the floor, they're not as good. That's probably worrisome that you're dependent on Josh Okogie. That's probably not a good sign.
Not ideal.
Tari Eason's shooting splits are also way too high.
Yeah, but
Tari does other things.
Tari Eason's mom is the new Twitter MVP.
Yeah. Amen lock for MIP that we all thought Thompson has a 26% effective field goal percentage on jump shots this season.
Yeah, pretty gross.
Pretty gross. Let's do some best bets here on the show. Let's start with Joe. Joe, what's your 3-star best bet on the night?
So I'm going to grab Lauri Markkanen over 6.5 rebounds. I like the spot against the Boston Celtics. He's coming off of 2 like down rebounding games. He had 4 against the Pistons, 5 against the Spurs, and a back-to-back after Christmas. But on the season, he's averaging 6.9 rebounds per game. He said this in 15 to 27 games. But looking at Boston, I think that Boston is just generally like a little bit undersized. You're kind of dealing with like Keita is really their big man on the interior. And although they limit rebounds kind of generally, I think a lot of that has to do with pace more than anything. So for me, I think this is a pretty good spot for Lauri, who is somebody that's always on the floor. It gives Utah a little bit more optionality. You might not really need to play Nurkic as much in this game as you would maybe like a different matchup because Boston again is a little bit more undersized. So I think that Lauri gets a good opportunity here against Boston. He also, in the game that they played back in November, Lauri, there was another game without Walker Kessler, which has been kind of the situation for the majority of the season, obviously, since Kessler's out for the year. But in that game against Boston, Lauri played 37 minutes, 9 rebounds on 16 chances, had 4 offensive rebounds, which is a little bit of like the variance here. But at the same time, Boston, that's actually one thing that they do allow. They do allow offensive rebounds. So I'm less skeptical about the 4 offensive rebounds in that game than I would be under like any like other normal circumstances. So to me, I think this is a good spot for Lauri. Prior to these 2 games where he's just coming off of, he had gone over in 2, 4, 6, 8 games in a row with over 6.5. So I like Laurie at over 6.5 rebounds against the Boston Celtics.
I think I like this. This seems like a pretty smart play, honestly, based off of like the Celtics and where they're at in the course of their season. I don't really know what to expect from the Jazz night to night, offensively, defensively, anything. I don't really know what to expect. So I don't really know where to get to on that. Fiddle, what's your 3-star play of the night?
My 3-star play on this card is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers plus 1.5. Now, it's actually hysterical that the cap for this is that the Philadelphia 76ers have been the easiest team in the NBA to read the tea leaves on their injury report after so many years of the exact opposite. And literally they had one of the 3 biggest drop-offs in national TV games from last season to this season, because the NBA finally got fed up of like, we don't care who's questionable and then ultimately not going to play. Like, you guys just don't care at all who plays on the spotlight games. We're not going to have you on the spotlight games. This year, 76ers dropped the news before any other team. Their questionable to probable stuff is very predictable. So looking at this spot right now and seeing them priced up against the Grizzlies as a slight underdog, I think they're going to close as a road favorite here, because I think Paul George and Joel Embiid both end up playing in this game. So if we've read the tea leaves of the way some of that stuff has been going recently, if you look at the numbers of Embiid on off defensively, like, their ability to guard the rim is supremely better with Embiid on the floor, which is good against a Grizzlies team that is just going to try and space and drive with Ja and have him get to the rim. He's not been doing that as well. So like the 76ers in this spot, love the way Paul George has been playing recently, and I think they all start putting it together. I know the numbers haven't been pretty on Embiid, Paul George, and Maxey together, but individually, those guys are clearly all playing at pretty good levels right now. And the minutes are ramping up. So I actually think the results full game start to bear some fruit. And this is going to be a 76ers close as 1.5 point favorites in Memphis.
It's already 1.5. It's already moved in most of the market. What's your threshold for this bet?
The ones are not really important. So often, like, I'll be willing, like, the move from 1.5 to the other side of 1.5 is a 3-digit move. That's not the same as a line going from 4 to 7, like, not at all. Right. So that's in these places, I'll be say, okay, I've identified the direction here and I'll be willing to play it till 2.5. And so I would still play it at -1.5. I would still play it at -2. And sometimes I think directionally, like, not revolving around key numbers, just play it anyways. And hopefully you don't get, the bad end of the wrong ticket on the direction. But yeah, I would take 76ers -2, -2.5.
Okay. I am, this is just a process standpoint question, because, like, I'm not trying to talk you into it. It's totally fine to be like 2.5 as a threshold. Because you, which I really appreciate, have done the work on the key number concepts in the NBA, which I really wish that we could get better data on what those are, especially coach by coach. I think is the most interesting ones.
Yeah, very interesting variable to throw in there.
Is there, so like one possession is 4, and if it's 4, a lot of times teams will just be like, all right, like, we can't get a 4-point play. That's unreasonable. So okay, fine, whatever. Do you find a meaningful difference with what I'm trying to ask is, do you find a meaningful difference between 2.5 and 3.5?
So the hardest part about answering that question is, one, some team tendency stuff. I definitely agree with that there. Like the Jazz specifically, who I know are playing on the slate, they'll foul down 8 with 17 seconds left. It's like, what are you guys doing? Right? It's crazy how much they'll foul. So like I'll be looking for overs, or I'll be willing to fade Jazz at longer numbers because it's extra points with 17 seconds left when no one else is playing for that stuff. So a lot of this is like 2 is slightly more common than 3 over the last 3 seasons. Just isolating the data. So it's literally 0.3%. It's over the course of however many games I'm tracking. It's literally a 9-game difference in how many games have landed 2 versus 3. So not significant, but obviously, like, if you're missing a number there, it's ultimately going to hurt the value. It's the part that I need to do more work on is, what's the weighted ratio for a 2.5 to land at 2 versus 3 versus a 13 to land at 2, right? So like how much does a boost of being priced next to the number actually get you on the weight of the number? And so it's a never-ending question that would have a different variable for each number in the digit scale. But I would still play at 2.5. If that's a long-winded answer to not say much.
Okay. So that is a lot to say that. All right, it's -1.5, -1.5, -108 right now. I am doing this live. I have just bet this on my other screen. I'm showing this on our youtube.com/the Action Network show. I am going to go ahead and say tailing Fiddle's picks in my note from buckets, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the little 3-star on there.
Wow.
There we go. So let me do one more. There we go. Do that. We're gonna track that pick, and that's done. Okay. Cool. I like that. That's a great play because I have it. I make it 3.3 on preseason numbers, and I make it Sixers 1.5 on in season. All right. Joe's gone. Fiddle's gone. It's my turn. I'm going to take Philly and Memphis under 232.5. So the key here is my guy, Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark is an awesome player. He is a guy that I would trust my life to. And if you actually pay attention since he has come back, they have a 110 defensive rating with him on the court, which is very good. They are actually over the last 6 games, which accounts for much of when Zach Edey went out and everyone kind of assumed that they were dead. They are 3-3 with the 9th best defense in the league. So I've got a better than expected mark on the Grizzlies based off of their full season numbers. Now, the trends for this season don't do well here. The Sixers are 11th in overrate this season, but Memphis at home is 18th in overrate. They are the 13th best home team for the over, or for the under, rather. I project this all the way down at 225.6. I'm just not going to be surprised if it's kind of a slugfest based off of the kind of style. There are these kind of tendencies nowadays to have faster games that are still going under because it's like really good transition defenses throwing the ball at one another. And I kind of think that might be what some of this is. Embiid and George don't really change that for me because the change of play, like anything that Embiid adds in efficiency, he takes away in terms of pace. And Paul George has largely been the same kind of mechanic there as well. By the way, to support Fiddle's Sixers play, the Sixers are the #1 road spread team this season. They are the best team on the road ATS this season. So, and Memphis is 21st at home against the spread. So very simply, I just think that this number is way too high. I'm going to go 232.5 on the under for the Sixers and Grizzlies. You can put that together with the Sixers money line and get yourself a little same game parlay over DraftKings Sportsbook. Joe, let's go back to you. Let's do some give me your 2s and your 1s.
So my 2-star play is going to be Asar Thompson's PRA. I like the spot against the Lakers. To me, the Lakers are like in a little bit of an interesting spot. They obviously don't have Austin Reeves right now, who's dealing with the injury, and you're kind of dealing with Luka and LeBron. And, JJ Redick's laid into them a couple times about effort, the gameplay that they're playing on, the level of focus that they have. And a player that I think is able to kind of capitalize on some of those inefficiencies is Asar Thompson. I think he's somebody that you kind of need on the floor from a matchup perspective in this game against the Lakers due to his size, ability to defend multiple positions, and his switchability. But I also think that he's somebody that kind of can fill in some of these gaps and hit on some of these points where the Lakers get, a little bit lazy on the rebounding, a little bit lazy on the cutting lanes, a little bit lazy on some of these passes. And Asar is somebody that can kind of contribute in an all-around fashion. So for me, this PRA number is a little bit light. He's hit this in 6 of his last 10 games, coming off of 2 slightly down games against the Clippers and the Jazz, but against the Jazz, he only played 16 minutes. And I just think that overall, he's generally been playing at least like in the mid 20s or so, if not in the low 30s for minutes. I think it's a good spot for him against the Lakers. It's kind of a bounce back opportunity here for Asar after having a slightly down game again against the Clippers, where they lost by 13 points. It just didn't really work out too well for the Pistons. So I like Asar on this over 18.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And the other thing is too, he's been really good at getting to the rack. And I do think that this Lakers team is just not necessarily the best at defending the rim when you're dealing with, like DeAndre Ayton's had flashes here and there, but he's somebody that I think if they're leaning on him a little bit more offensively without Reeves, then that kind of impacts his defensive abilities there as well. And then for my 3-star play, or 1-star play rather, I'm going back to that Celtics and Jazz game, and I'm looking at Peyton Pritchard over 17.5 points. So coming off a rough shooting night against the Portland Trailblazers, 3 for 10 against them. But the key here against the Jazz is the Jazz play at a relatively fast pace, and the Jazz are just allowing a ton of threes, and they allow a ton of spot up threes in particular, and they give up a lot of transition opportunities. Those are all things that Pritchard really thrives at. He's able to obviously get to the rim and transition, but he's somebody that's for the most part taking the majority of his shots on above the break threes. And I think this is a good opportunity for him against Utah. It's a number that he hasn't really hit over the past month that well, but I do think that when he's had good matchups and good opportunities, he's been able to really capitalize. So I like Pritchard on over 17.5 points. He's still averaging 17.7 points per game this season. So I'll grab Pritchard to go over 17.5 points against the Jazz.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and piggyback here and steal the ball from Fiddle before he can grab it. I'm going to go ahead and get my 2 of my 1-stars, because my 1-star is actually going to be the over in Boston, Utah, based off of in support of Joe's picks here. So you got a couple of same game parlays you can put together with Peyton Pritchard and the over. I've got this 246.2. The Jazz are the number 2 over team at home. They have been a wild team home versus away pretty much the entire time I've covered the league. There's always like something very weird is always extreme with the Jazz, like no matter what it is, whether it's like totals or spread or straight up or defense, like something is always very different with them at home, more so than even Denver, who plays at a similar altitude. And so I do like this over quite a bit. I just think that the Celtics offense against this Jazz team, the Jazz in part, they got a nasty habit of going under screens, and that gets them in trouble on pull-up threes. So I think there's a good chance that this is just going to be an absolute barn burner back and forth. Boston on the road does tend to kind of make it harder on themselves than they need to. I have checked the data. Last time I checked, their turnover rate was way higher on the road than at home. So I think it's very likely that there's like easier buckets to be found for Utah here as well. So I'll take the over 240.5 here. I make it 246.5. It's a high number, so it's only my 1-star. And that leads me into my 2-star, which I'm going head to head with Michael Fiddle here, because I like the Detroit Pistons laying the 2.5 here versus the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers without Reeves have been okay against the spread this season, but in general, that's a huge chunk to miss them. This is like the last chance. I keep getting bit by betting Detroit as in like favorable spots, in when they're favored more than like you would have thought coming into the year. I keep like looking at my numbers and being like, oh yeah, they should absolutely win this game, and the injuries and blah, 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 blah. And then they don't cover and I get really frustrated. This is like my last one, but I just can't get here on the number given how the Lakers have played. I don't think that the Kings game was a get right spot. I don't think that they've learned anything since the loss on Christmas. I think playing the Kings after you have that kind of embarrassing performance is actually bad, because it makes you think like, yeah, we got it. It's no big deal. Everything's fine. I make this a big old number based off of all the Austin Reeves injury and how good Detroit has been, and the Lakers fall off defensively. I'll also be on the over, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay the 2 with the Pistons. Fiddle, you like the Lakers, but you've also got another play on the slate. Give me your 2s and your 1-star bets.
Yeah, so I'll start with the 2-star, which is going to be the Clippers and the Kings under 222.5. 223s are available in market. Fine with any of those numbers. Think it closes 221.5, maybe even lower than that. What's notable about the Kings and why I do agree against the Lakers was not a get right spot, but something notable about the Kings right now is like they're playing very young. they're just giving the young guys minutes. They've essentially pulled Malik Monk out of the rotation. Dennis Schroeder's playing a lot less minutes. They're letting Russ really, play with a lot of the younger guys. Keon Ellis entering the starting lineup. Maxime Reynaud playing great in the Sabonis role, and he's lingering out with an injury. But like they're openly talking about Malik being on the trade block, Zach LaVine being in trade talks, Sabonis even being someone that they'd be willing to part with. And so they've kind of made the move to just play the younger guys more minutes right now. And so when you look at Kings numbers versus the players that are on the court, it's not really a match of like these players are not what has generated those stat sets. So I'm looking for ways to fade the Kings. I don't really want to play the Clippers as a -9.5, 10-point favorite. I think the Clippers have burned everyone quite a bit. So I don't want to lay the huge number coming off of a awesome game for the Clippers, and Kawhi's obviously had an aspirational performance last game with 55. So I think this is an underplay, and playing into that the Clippers defense has been amazing, and now you're going to go up against the young guys of the Kings, and it's probably going to be quite an inefficient night for Sacramento. So my first play 2-star is Sacramento at the Clippers under 223.5. And then I'm on the Lakers plus 2.5 is best number in market. Now I would tack on some money line. Matt says he couldn't get to the price with the Lakers. I'm the same way but just opposite. I don't know how we're getting a 2.5-point favorite for the Pistons on the road here. Most recent market ratings have Detroit as the 4th best team, 5 points better than a average team, and the Lakers 11th best, 2.1 better than an average team, and that factors in Reeves missing games, and so that does not price in Reeves into the lineup that has him missing. So then we make the adjustment with home court. It's like it should be close to a pick 'em, and then you remove Rui, and you say, okay, we already know there's no Rui. I'm one of the people who think Rui's ATS value is higher than it is priced into the market. Like this guy is essential to Lakers, and even without Rui, like I don't know how we're getting to 2.5. So like I can justify Detroit -1.5, but at 2.5, just no way. And I even think like 1.5 might be a stretch. So I think it might close at like 1 or 1.5. So I'm very willing to hop on. And if I was betting it now, when we started doing the show, it was at 3, and now it's at 2.5. Going the other way with these numbers, we spoke about taking the 76ers and being able to take it because of late game fouling. Going the other way and losing on the 3, not having that to cover, I'd split my exposure up, whereas previously I was just on the +3. Like at this point, I'll take the +2.5, and whatever half the amount or a quarter of the amount I was going to, I'll also put it on the money line and take the chances at the outright win.
This season, when Luka plays and Austin Reeves does not, the Lakers are 4-2 straight up with a +0.2 point differential. They are 3-3 against the spread with a -4.2 spread differential. But one of their wins was against the San Antonio Spurs on November 5th with this lineup combo. So it's tough. Rui has been one of the most efficient half-court players in the league this season. If their offense isn't as good, and I think he actually compromises their defense as well, like that to me is a worrisome sign here. That said, just like I do not like going up against. Let me just put it this way: I do not like going up against Fiddle. I do not feel good after doing this episode. I'm not like, yeah, I feel good about this. This is gonna go great for me. I see no way that this goes badly. I show a lot of value on the Kings for like the 700th game in a row. I will not. I refuse. I keep doing this to myself where I'm like,
even the young Kings.
It might be like a little bit of that. No, don't.
The Princes.
No, cannot bet. Not bet the Kings.
I would say when we go head to head, like the biggest advice is like my win happens between now and tip off, right? Good. Like that's where I try and win. And if the game closes at 1, then whatever the results be damned. Like I pat myself on the back for process, and it's not a higher win if it hits or a lower loss if it loses. So if you do want the Pistons and you hear Matt's cap, just wait till tip off. You're probably going to get a better number and take the Pistons at tip-off. If you disagree with something I'm saying, it should at least just be advice to just wait it out for a better number on the side that you want.
Yeah. Fiddle, the maestro of the market, wins between now and tip-off. I win because of the friends that we make along the way. That's where I get my wins. All right. King of the Court is on Tuesday, so we're going to go ahead and rack up our usual array of bets to make. If you are unfamiliar with King of the Court, you place your $5 prop bet on any prop from that player, and if he leaves the league that night, you have to use the promo, the promo. Opt in, use the code on DraftKings. You have to select the promo when you put in your bet on their prop. And if they lead the league that night in points, rebounds, and assists, you get a share of the money bet on that player. So, along with the big bonus that the league that the DraftKings provides, $1 million in bonus bets tomorrow is what they're giving away. So, Joe, as always, we start with our chalk. Who's our chalk guy tonight?
Our chalk is always Luka Doncic. It's either Luka or Jokic, whichever one of them's playing. It seems to be the chalk of the night. Luka is going to have the highest PRA number on the board. No Austin Reeves, so it's going to be even more usage. I think it is a little bit of a tougher matchup against the Detroit Pistons, but at the same time, it's Luka, and his usage is just monstrous. So he can go over he can score 40 points. He can have 15 rebounds. He can have 15 assists. You really never know. So Luka is the clear king of the chalk for us for King of the Court.
I put King of Value here as Cade Cunningham because Joe and I both liked him. But Joe, I this goes against the graphic that I'm showing.
Yeah.
If Cade has a huge game, isn't it implicit that Luka also has a huge game?
It does make it a little bit tougher, I think. Unless
what are the odds that that it's a high scoring affair and Cade Cunningham has an incredible triple double night and has more than Luka?
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Like, you're kind of cutting it down. You're going to cut it real narrow. Then you basically have to say that Luka gets held. Like, it's like you hold Luka to under 30. Like, that's how Cade gets there. And I mean that even seems, not only is it hard to do, but it seems outrageous that that's the number that you're saying. Like, well, if we keep Luka under 30, then Cade's got a chance.
Yeah. Joe, you also talked about the timing of this because of the way the slate's working. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so there's one game at 8:00, the Sixers and the Grizzlies. Then the Celtics and the Jazz play at 9. Then you have the Pistons and the Lakers at 10:30, and the Kings and the Clippers at 11. So the reason I think this is important is if you don't want somebody in, like, let's say you wanted to pick maybe Cade or Luka or somebody in the Kings and the Clippers game, whether it's like a James Harden, Russell Westbrook, like whatever you wanted to do, right? You get an opportunity to see, because you don't have to bet it. You don't have to use this token early in the day. So you get an opportunity to see, like, is somebody going off in Sixers Grizzlies? Is somebody going off in Celtics Jazz, where you say, okay, well, like, I have to have a guy that can get up like 50 PRA in order to even have a chance to win, because maybe Tyrese Maxey's going crazy, or something to that effect, right? Or Jaylen Brown is going crazy, and like before those games start, where it's like, okay, like maybe I need to go with the chalk because there's already an underdog that kind of is doing very, very well or way better than expected. In the event that doesn't happen, I do think it opens up it two different ways. You can either go with the chalk and say, well, now I think I'm very likely to win with the chalk, or it gives you the opportunity to pick somebody else and say, well, now, like, I don't have to beat as many players. I basically just need to beat one guy that normally is really good, but if he maybe has a down game, there's just less things that can happen at that point. You've seen the board more. So just a little bit of the thing that you can do if there's somebody that you potentially like later or want to fade in one of these late games when there's only a couple games on the slate and the start times are staggered.
All right, and then finally we've got our king of fun. We're going to go with Jaylen Brown. Fiddle, what do you think about this one?
Jaylen Brown has had 30 or more points in every game in December. The last time that Jaylen Brown did not have a 30 piece was November 30th, and we're playing this game on December 30th. So it's been a full month, 9 straight games with him having 30 plus points, and he gets it done in many of other ways too. He could get some rebounds and assists. Going up against the Jazz, a former coach of his and Will Hardy, now leading the sidelines for Utah, the highest total on the board, and the Celtics taking sharp action within that. So like the total's climbing and the Celtics ATS is climbing. So that is just attributing points to the Celtics side of that equation. So if we look at all of those factors, I would say Jaylen Brown could be the one guy who gets some of his name in this king of the court realm. Just trying to make a hair joke.
We did have a comment that mentioned the claw here. Joe, that was our original king of fun was going to be Kawhi.
Yeah.
We just couldn't talk ourselves into Kawhi doing it back-to-back games. But maybe this is just that week where he does that.
And I think that this goes into the thing that I was talking about. Like if you're looking to back maybe Kawhi and you don't see anybody else going crazy in the first couple of games, then you say, okay, well, you know, the Clippers play at the latest possible time here. Maybe he's somebody that now we can bet or now we can pick before, you know, the Lakers start going off against the Pistons. And you said, all right, well, like I've seen the start of the other two games. I think that there's maybe opportunity for somebody that's not the chalk.
Okay, so our king of chalk is Luka Doncic, king of value is Cade Cunningham, and our king of fun is Jaylen Brown. Hope we've given you some advice on that. That's at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. All right, that's going to do it for buckets here for a Monday night. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys have a great Tuesday. Make sure to download the Action Network app. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. Give her Gould with her help at youtube.com/the Action Network. Give us a 5-star review, please, and thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us in the comments. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you guys again next time. For Joe Dellera and Michael Fiddle, till next time, let's get buckets.